podcast with Sheila, the podcast that is spreading positivity around the world by sharing inspiring life experiences. Today's guest is a seasoned expert in hypnosis and NLP. He is a CEO and author of Rise Above the Script. With over 20 years of experience at the intersection of entertainment, education, and psychology, Albert has helped countless performers, students, and creatives overcome mental blocks. As usual, we aim to educate, motivate, and inspire you. So grab your warm drinks and let's get the ball rolling. Hello, Albert, and welcome to Podcast with Sheila.
Well, thank you, Sheila, for inviting me. I'm really happy to be here and happy to
Great,
join you.
great. I believe we're going to be having a great time here because we're talking more about the mind and how it works and the kind of things that affect it. And I believe that there's a lot going on in the world today, and people are experiencing a lot. So I believe we're going to learn more from you. Your journey spans performance, education, psychology, and tech. What inspired you to bring all these worlds together into the work you do now?
Well, a lot of it kind of happened both by design and in order also by accident, by coincidence. So to start off my journey, I was always interested in the mind, the human mind, and I was a bookworm growing up. I've loved spending time in the library. And I read a lot of books about science, about the brain and behavior. And so that led me to study psychology in college. And but I was also interested in the performing arts space too. So like in high school I was in a drama club. During my undergraduate studies I took some theater and acting classes as electives. And I really enjoyed the process. It was really an amazing process just to be part of the creative enterprise and creative environment. And so during my when I was finishing up my master's degree, I wound up doing an internship at a talk show in New York City. And that kind of happened again by accident, by an amazing coincidence. That wasn't planned. That was just I was very interested in relationships. So I worked in the talk show capacity. I worked in the aftercare department, which is providing prevention counseling, sort of like after the guests were on the air. It would be kind of to calm them down and to mediate any differences before they went back home. And through doing that, I got exposed with actors in the field, other producers, and that kind of led me down the rabbit hole of the entertainment industry. So I started off initially as an actor. This is back in 2001, 2002 ish time. And for me, acting wasn't the career path I wanted to go into, but I love being around the energy of creatives, the energy of actors, the energy of producers, of just being on set and just being around these people was so invigorating for me. So that kind of led me to kind of pursue a career in behind the scenes representing and supporting artists and representing and supporting actors. And so for the past 21 years, I've been working in New York City as a talent agent, which
Great.
means I
Wow, it's very
go ahead.
interesting your background story, knowing that you have a science background and then in a way intertwining all of that with the arts background. And you know, in the real world, science is very far apart from the arts. So it's very interesting, and I'd like to hear more how you've been able to bring these together and using it to help people. Many creatives and professionals struggle with imposter syndrome. From your experience, what are some of the root causes and how can people start overcoming them?
So to kind of what led me to studying imposter syndrome is I work with working with actors and artists. It's one of the most exciting fields, but it's also immensely competitive, and it's a profession where you're going to hear a lot of no's before you receive yeses, and that's the reality of the field. And so what can happen is that if you're an artist, you get told no a lot. It can start to create self doubt or maybe even the imposter syndrome do I really belong here? And so a lot of the imposter syndrome deals with limiting beliefs that we have, or maybe we grew up in a family where we were criticized a lot or harshly by our parents, by our teachers, by our elders. And so we start to internalize this criticism that we received, and it starts running a loop. So that's how we start to develop imposter syndrome. Now, how do we overcome that? Well, the first thing is to kind of become aware of what's happening, what's going on here. And I always feel that imposter syndrome can be more of an aid to, not just a limitation, but it keeps us humble. It keeps us grounded sometimes because it it always becomes a way of um, keeping us humble, keeping us educated in a sense. So I always come to the mentality we're always learning, and we should never stop learning. And so, if there's something that we feel that we're lacking in, this could be a great time to improve and level up our skills. So rather than looking at this imposter syndrome as this negative or elephant in the room, we can look at it as also an aid for us to become even better in what we're being,
Wow.
in a sense.
I like the way you put it. And that's a beautiful way that instead of focusing on the negatives of the imposter syndrome, why not focus on the positives and say, this is where I'm lacking and what can I do to get better? Basically, that is it. And I believe that a lot of people will be suffering this kind of syndrome, probably knowingly or unknowingly. And I'm glad we're talking about it today, throwing some light on it for people to know that if you're going through anything like that, be looking at it from the positive side rather than dwelling on the negative. And I think that is a brilliant thing over there. You often speak about rewriting internal blocks. What are some common forms of self sabotage you see, and how can people begin to shift those patterns?
Well, self sabotage is really getting in your own way, in a sense. So it could be the way I saw it, and especially both from an agent side of things and also being a college professor for many years. We see it in people that are not living up to their true potential. Maybe they're not preparing fully for interviews, they're not preparing fully for exams, or doing something that gets them discounted in any way. So that might be being late, by being unprepared. So, and we're really being our own worst enemy. And what makes this very stinky is we don't even realize we're doing this. This is like an unconscious pattern. So it's not like we're waking up and saying, I choose to be I choose to self sabotage today. We don't realize we're doing it. And so that's why it's a very sneaky pattern that catches up with us over time.
So, do you think that self sabotage is something that is built on of effect, probably from childhood experiences, or even somebody may encounter or go through something in their adulthood, and then unknowingly that they begin to self sabotage, self doubt them, like doubt
I, I,
themselves.
I I think it's a combination of both that patterns. It's definitely, again, going back to what I said earlier about imposter syndrome. If we hear a critical review of a parent, that a parent has told us, or an elder, or somebody that we really respect, maybe told us, we're not going to be that smart, or we're not gifted enough. And so we internalize that, and therefore, as an adult, maybe we're reminded of situations like that. We don't get the job interview we want, or we don't get we don't make the sale that we want, or we don't get the prospect that we wish for. We then start. Then those conversation that we heard earlier in our childhood kept popping up. Another factor that brings up self sabotage is fear. Now, I kind of talk about two types of fears. We have fear of failure and fear of success. Now, most of us, fear failure because that's the one thing we don't want to do is look bad or fall on our face. But there's also part of us that fears even success. And we fear success because maybe perhaps the change that comes with the success. or the implication of what we're doing can create a successful uh, environment, and that can create change. And as human beings, we don't like change. We're uncomfortable when it comes to change. So we kind of stick to routine. And sometimes when you're successful, your life is going to change. I mean, that's inevitable. Whether you get that job promotion or an actor gets a lead role, it their lives are going to change, and that's scary. And our brains are wired to protect us from fear, so it's going to do whatever it takes to protect us from fear. And if that means not putting our best foot forward, that's going to happen.
Mm, wow. You're a certified hypnotist and NLP practitioner. How do these tools work in the context of performance and creativity, and can anyone benefit from them?
Absolutely, we can all benefit from that because it works with rewiring limiting beliefs. And so all of us have our minds really have two levels. We have the conscious mind, which we're engaging right now. We also have a subconscious mind, which is like the deeper part of our mind, and that controls our behavior. We're not necessarily aware of it. So I think if we really encounter that and confront that by rewiring our limiting beliefs in a sense, and no, kind of like with hypnosis and NLP, we can kind of find out what we don't know in a sense, because there could be patterns that we don't even know that's happening that's stopping our success. So becoming aware, these tools can help us become aware of that.
Well, let's take a real case scenario where somebody has had an abusive life growing up and um, grew up from a home where never felt valued. And on top of it,
Mhm.
went to a school where was never accepted. This kind of person has never been in any environment where they've been praised, supported, or positively anything positive said to them. And they've grown up feeling very inferior, not accepted, very
Mhm.
low of themselves. How can such a person rewire themselves or rewire their brains and begin to live a positive life?
The important thing a lot of times with abuse and trauma and neglect, there's a tendency to self blame. There's a tendency to believe that something is wrong with me. So one of the things we want to do is separate from that and not necessarily cause blame or anger towards the other person, but realize that this is another person's perspective.
Mm,
This is not who I am. So we can start to separate that by saying, look, this is not our fault. It's not your fault that you've been abused. It's not your fault that these things were said to you. It's not your fault. So that's the important thing. It's not your fault. And to know that, that's the first step, is to really know that it's not about you. It's not your fault. And learning to even love yourself, because at the end of the day, what's the most important thing is we need to love ourselves.
wow.
That's the
Wow.
most important thing. Loving ourselves, self love is the most important thing. So we can teach somebody how to love themselves, and therefore separate from the abuse, like saying, okay, our parents or our abusers were acting out of their own pain and their own trauma and projecting that onto us.
Great. How can
So
somebody, sorry, I interrupted.
no. But that would be the first step. Would be just to go with not blaming yourself.
Great. Now we talk about self-love, and I think this is a common language we hear every day. When we say self-love, what is it? And how can somebody say, I'm loving myself. I want to love myself.
Well, it's one thing to say it, but it's one thing to actually live it.
Yeah,
Because we
yeah,
can say language all we want, it's just air coming out of our mouth.
yeah.
So the important thing is truly love and accept yourself. And That means, accepting your limitations, but also at the same time appreciating all your achievements in a sense. So, and that might even just mean, look, you survived. You
Great.
may have had a rough life, but you survived. That's number one, you're a survivor. That's the first step. You made it to adulthood, you're a survivor. And then start rewiring, again, when you love yourself, no, what anybody else says, it will never matter anymore. What
Exactly.
matters is
Exactly.
what you believe. And so that's where hypnosis and NLP can come into, because it's changing that your own perception of yourself and your own perception of what happened. So we can't change the past. It's not like we can change the abuse that happened to you, but we can change your interpretation of it, and we can change the way you look at things. That is what's important. We can change how you view that.
Great. I see a lot of love online. Thank you very much,
Thank
everybody
you.
who is supporting us. Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
You coach actors to land life-changing roles beyond talent. What mindset or habits make the biggest difference in sustaining a successful creative career?
Well, as far as mindset, I always feel that adopting a growth mindset is important. Well, me, my growth mindset is, again, you're always learning, you're always evolving. So it's kind of embracing a life of possibility. So, in order for an actor to really thrive in this industry, is A, to have the confidence that they can do it, and B, always adopt the mindset of always learning and always trying new things. That's the important thing for an actor's mindset, is that you're always growing and you're always evolving. And we're always like a work in progress. So that means always learning, always being in class, always coaching. So no matter how much training you have, whether it's in any type of field, you should always adopt the mindset of always learning. Like, even though I have a PhD, which is by educational standards considered terminal degree, I'm just beginning my learning. I'm still always learning. So that's a mentality, a mental shift that I think we should all be taking. Is we're always learning, we're always a work in progress. And that's how I feel a lot of successful actors can start. Will start booking roles more when they start adapting that humbleness and adopting that nature of you're always learning.
Wow. I think I totally agree with you. Always learning as a powerful tool, because I believe that knowledge is power. And as the world evolves, you have to try and align yourself with the changes of this world so you're not left behind. And that in itself puts you up on top of your creative journey as a creative. I'm a creative person myself. I've been a creative person all my life. And I totally identify with what you just said, as in the case of me, I realized the things I used to do in my creative journey a year ago or even 2 years ago is not the same way things are being done now. So every
Mhm.
day I'm looking at how things are evolving and changing in my industry, adapting to it, learning, and then making sure that I'm still at par and not being left at the bottom. I believe that is similar to what you're talking about, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. You just constantly, keep adapting and keep learning. And I think that's so important.
Great. How has your background as a psychology professor influenced the way you mentor students and performers?
Well, I think just understanding human behavior is number one, the important thing. And for me, just having an understanding can really help me become more tolerant and more patient and more understanding, especially with actors. Now, certain quirks of actors might annoy or bother other colleagues in my field because they don't understand. I understand it more. And again, a lot of times, even working with students, a lot of times it's just about empowering them and to realize that they really can do this stuff.
Oh, that's beautiful. AI is rapidly changing how we create and work. How can creatives and educators embrace AI tools like ChatGPT without feeling overwhelmed or threatened?
Well, there's the notion that AI will take one of the biggest fears about AI. is that it'll take over people's jobs away. And I don't. I my viewpoint is I don't think that'll ever be possible because we always need humans to do most jobs.
Yeah.
However, if you don't know AI, so a person who knows AI can maybe take the job away from you.
Yeah.
So I view using AI as more of as a partner rather than a crutch. So some say AI can be your second brain, which is true, but it should never be your first brain. So you can use it as a tool. So I rather than saying like you're going to have something generated with AI, you can use it as assisting thing. You're brainstorming. You can assist it with creativity, with writing a little bit, rather than using it as a tool, as a primary tool. Use it as an assistance, as something that like that as a partner in the sense that can help you refine things. So, but you should always, no matter what output you use with ChatGPT or Claude or any other large language model, you should always put your own interpretation into it, your own experience. Because as much as AI is great, it's not you. It doesn't have your own experiences. So, what I like to do is I'll write something out, by myself first, and then I might ask ChatGPT to help enhance it a bit, and then I'll take that output and then enhance it again by
Yeah.
putting my own viewpoints and my own experiences. So sometimes it can help me with like, oh, I didn't think of that. Oh, this is a great idea. I didn't think of that. So I look at AI as mainly as a partner, as an assistant.
Exactly. I think that this week, over the weekend, I had this conversation with my sister, and we were talking about a few things. That she's on a course, and I'm on a course, yeah, similar courses, and we're talking about AI and using it as an assistant to help. And then we are come to a conclusion to say that AI, as an example, ChatGPT would not be able to tell or do the thing for you. You have to tell ChatGPT exactly what you want it to do for you.
Right.
So you give ChatGPT the instruction, and then you tell it, do this for me, and then it does it. So ChatGPT on its own cannot do anything unless
Yeah,
you don't instruct.
and you have to be detail. Like if I tell you, okay, write me an article on meditation, it's going to write me a very generic article that probably would not really do much for me. But I have to say, if I say write me, a detailed meditation for women over 40 who are dealing with this and that, and now I'll have something. So there's a statement goes when you call it because that's what when you give an instruction, it's called prompting. So there's a statement with prompting. It's like garbage in, garbage out. So if you give it prompt it with garbage, it's going to give you garbage back. It only does what it tells you to do. It doesn't have the ability to do something you don't tell it to do. So you still have to know how to prompt it. You still have to know how to. So that's where your knowledge is going to come in. There's nothing that's going to replace that.
Exactly. Yeah. You've helped others develop unstoppable momentum. What are some practical ways someone feeling stuck can start building that kind of momentum today?
Well, I think making some changes in your life. That's the important thing. So adopting the I'm always changing, I'm always evolving. So if you want, start taking action in your life.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. And just take action. That's what's really important.
I totally agree with you. I think somebody had told me I like having conversations a lot, deep conversations with people that totally like reason or align with my thoughts. And I was having a conversation with somebody, and then we were talking about if you don't move, nothing happens for you, especially for entrepreneurs. If I wake up today and I don't do anything about my work, nothing happens. My job is still at the level I left it yesterday.
Of
So if I
course.
want, yes, if I want to see change, I have to put in the work. Basically, that's what we're talking about. So if I don't do anything today my work did not progress.
Right. And a lot of people are sitting there, I want they'll say, I want my life to change, I want this to, but they're not doing anything about it.
Yeah, yeah,
So And your
Yeah.
life will never change. Year in and year out, you're going to live the same life over and over again if you don't do anything about it.
Great. I think that in my signing off all the time, I always say change begins with you. So if you're looking for change, then you have to be,
You be
yeah,
the change, yes.
yeah, yeah. You've spoken on other podcasts and led transformational sessions. What's one story or breakthrough moment that stands out in your career so far?
Well, I think the moment would be kind of like what we were just saying earlier is by taking action. And a lot of people have you'll hear people say, well, someday I'm going to do this, or someday I'm going to write a book, or someday I'm going to do this. The important thing is it should start today.
Yeah,
Someday doesn't exist. Someday is just a myth. It should start today. So start small. You don't do this large, but start small and take actions every day so that it becomes reality. So accountability is extremely important. And this is what we can help other people do, other entrepreneurs, other visionaries. When you have a goal, start setting deadlines and start putting it on your calendar. And that was, I think, the biggest insight that I experienced is just when you put something in your calendar, it becomes real.
yeah. I totally identify with that. And so many times I've spoken to the women about it, and I run an organization called Skilled Hands. And when I talk to the women as a way to inspire them, I tell them Skilled Hands started in a small polythene bag because my first set of tools was in a small bag, and today is that big. So it's basically telling them that if I was able to do it, they can do it. Don't look at your current circumstances. Don't look at what you have. Just start with what you have, and then be consistent and believe that whatever dream you see in your head, because you'll probably be the only one seeing it, nobody can see it. And even if you tell somebody, you may not be able to tell it well enough, and they may not be able to believe you well enough to encourage you to go on. So it all starts with you, like you said, and the efforts, your consistency, the passion behind whatever you're doing, and then make a step, no matter how small. Just believe in the dream and know I'm small today, tomorrow I'm going to be big, but I just have to
Yes,
keep working at it. Yeah.
100% exactly. Great way about it.
Great. For anyone listening who's afraid to take the next step in their journey, whether creatively, professionally, or personally, what would you say to them right now?
I would say start small. Take a small action. What's one thing you can do today that it may doesn't have to be long. It takes you 2 minutes, even 5 minutes to do, and start taking that action. Maybe think about it in a book. Write a paragraph. Start small.
Exactly. Exactly. We would like to say a massive thank you for coming on podcast with Sheila today.
And thank you for having me, Sheila. I'm really happy to be here. Really happy to be with the audience. And thank you everyone for the kind remarks and everything.
Good. The response has been good. If you've been listening in, this is season two, episode 135 of our podcast series, where we bring seasoned guests with inspiring life stories and experiences to share with us. Don't miss out on all these wonderful experiences. Subscribe and be notified when a new episode is released. Whilst you're at it, please take a moment to drop us a rating. Our prayer for you this week is that you'll become an advocate and a lover of peace. Remember, change begins with you. Until we meet again, have a brilliant day.
Thank you,
Bye.
everybody. Bye.
Bye.